Good morning from Wiesbaden, Germany. My name is Billy Reinstatler, and for this week's post, I'll be discussing the use of historical newspapers to look into reactions of the United States entry into World War I in April of 1917. Using the Jerry Falwell Library ProQuest Historical Newspaper database, I was able to gather around a dozen different newspaper articles from April 1917. The United States had declared war on Germany on April 4th of that year, 1917, after President Wilson had addressed the Congress requesting a declaration 2 days prior on the 2nd. Initially, I was looking to take a more local approach, looking at how the population of Cincinnati, Ohio, which was largely German Americans, reacted to the outbreak of World War I, or rather the declaration of war by the United States on Germany. So in 1917, there were still many in Cincinnati. There were still many first-generation Americans, and they still spoke German at home. There were many German newspapers. I had the good fortune to know my great-grandma Horst, so my mom's grandmother, who spoke German. She's born in 1908, and they spoke German in the home and in school up until the war broke out. So as a young girl, while she was in grade school, they had to stop speaking German. Many of the streets in what was called the Over-the-Rhine district of Cincinnati had to be renamed or were renamed due to the hysteria over anything German-sounding. It had a great impact there. And so that was my initial desire, was to look at that. However, the ProQuest database is much more nationally focused, and so I was able to find some articles from the Baltimore Sun and the New York Times. So it was not able to focus in directly on Cincinnati, Ohio, but nonetheless, I looked at some articles and how more broadly the reaction to World War I's outbreak, or our entry into it as the United States. So I found a 2 April article titled Plymouth Church Declares for War, in which Henry Ward Beecher's son urged a declaration of war on Germany, even adopting a resolution for the same at his church in Brooklyn, New York. And just below that, interestingly, I found an article titled Catholics Cheer President, Knights of Columbus Say Priests Too Are Ready to Enlist. So that can just demonstrate kind of the diversity of support behind this amongst various denominations and religious populations. Many of the other articles I found from that month dealt with the draft and the idea of a draft. So one article I found was titled Congressman Price Declares for Draft, which recounts Congressman Jesse D. Price of Maryland's support for President Wilson's draft proposal. There's another one about Mississippi Senator John Williams, who was the only representative or senator from his state to support it. This was ultimately passed the Selective Service Act later in 1917, but it's interesting to see arguments for and against it. One final interesting article I found was titled TR Impatient to Fight from the 15th of April, in which President Theodore Roosevelt said he was eager to serve again and that he urged the implementation of a draft in conversations with President Wilson. Interestingly, this article refers to him not as President or former President Roosevelt, rather Colonel, his military rank when he commanded the 1st United States Volunteer Cavalry Regiment, more commonly known as the Rough Riders, during the Spanish-American War. So, using ProQuest Historical Newspapers database provided an interesting look at the initial reactions to the U.S. declaration of war on Germany in April 1917. Thank you for watching.